that represent function form, which represent the relationship between the total cost and output. So when we studied this, last week, I introduced you the shape of the curve. Okay, then we start from here. And then we're going to do the same thing for the cost function. So first I'm going to, before that I have to introduce you what is total cost. Okay. We divide the total cost into two parts. The first part we call the total fixed cost. TFC, total fixed cost. What is total fixed cost? Total fixed costs are the costs that is not associated with production. When you produce more, your total fixed costs do not change. For example, if you're opening a restaurant and you have to buy the building, then the cost of that building, cost of the kitchen, when you start the kitchen, that incurs cost to you, and the cost of building kitchen, cost of table and chair, all those costs are considered as total fixed costs because those costs do not change later on. You may sell 20 pizza instead of 10 pizza, but that cost is still there, does not change. So the total fixed costs are the costs that are not associated with production. How about the electricity and water? Should we include those in the total fixed cost? Yes or no? No. Because when you produce more, make more food, and will incur more electricity bill and the water bill, right? How about the cost of raw materials? Are they considered as total fixed cost? The cost of raw materials, as the things that you buy to make the food, they're not included. How about the wage you pay to the worker? If you want to make more, you have to make them work more, you have to pay them more, right? So all those costs are not included in the total fixed cost, but are included in total variable cost. So total variable cost is the cost that associated with production. Not associated with production. That's for the fixed cost. Okay, so total fixed costs are not associated with production, but total variable costs are associated with production. So we add these two up, and that is total cost. So that's how we define these three terms: total cost, total variable cost, and total fixed cost. Now let's look at the shape. Let's look at the shape of first one. Let's look at the shape of the total variable cost in terms of the output. So along the horizontal axis here is the output. And now I'm going to draw the total variable. Here's drawing. You can tell from this graph here, variable cost is associated with production because as you produce more and more, the total variable cost goes up. But there is a shape here. What is the shape at the beginning? Increasing is decreasing rate or increasing rate? Huh? Increasing rate or decreasing rate at the beginning? Decreasing. It's decreasing. The beginning is decreasing rate, right? And later on, look at the increase. It's faster. Okay. So at the beginning, your total variable cost increases with a decreasing rate, but after a certain point, it's going to increase with faster rate. Why is like that? Why the variable cost increases this way? Remember what has variable cost? Variable cost are the costs that are associated with production. I'm going to give you guys a hint. There is an underlying assumption. The underlying assumption here is we're in the short run. Let's remember the difference between short run and long run. What's the difference between short run and long run?
What was the question?
What's the difference between short run and long run?
Assuming no businesses are leaving or entering. So assume that no businesses are leaving or entering.
There's no
Capital.
exiting or entering, right? Yes. And there's an additional, another assumption. There's a fixed capital goods. Okay, so the scale is fixed. And in the short run, we assume you're not going to change the location or change the scale. I mean, that is a realistic assumption, for majority of the business. Nobody is going to expand the restaurant business here, right? Okay. So if there is a fixed scale in this business, what does that imply in terms of production? We'll talk about that class. If there's a fixed scale, what does it imply about production capacity?
Meaning it's not exhausted.
There is this capacity, right? There's this production potential within this fixed scale. And it is beneficial to you if you utilize this production potential existed in this business, okay? When you're not producing enough, you have not exhausted all the production potential yet, right? So increasing the output benefits you. So how does it benefit you? From the perspective of the cost? Well, even the total variable cost increases, but increases with a lesser degree. That means you are benefiting from producing more and more. You should produce more and more. You should utilizing that production potential, that capacity. But once you exhausted that production potential or capacity, if you keep pushing production, if you keep producing more, now what you're seeing here is total variable cost is going to increases at a faster speed. And that makes sense. If you buy this machine can produce 100 pair of shoes within a day. That is comfortable potential. You want to push it. You want to make it 150 pairs per day. You may still able to do it, but that will increase the likelihood that this machine will break down someday. When it's break down, you need to pay somebody to fix it. It will cost more money. So when you go beyond that production potential, you will see the cost increasing at a greater rate. So that's why it shapes like that. So the principle, the rationale behind this is the same as when we talk about a production function. Within the fixed scale, within the short run, at the beginning, you have not exhausted, you're going to see the benefit of producing more and employing more inputs. But after a certain point, you're going to start seeing the negative impact from producing more, employing more inputs. So this is the shape of the total variable cost. Now let's take a look at the total fixed cost. What does total fixed cost look like here? Why straight line? It does not change. When you produce more, it's still, let's say its fixed cost is $100,000. It's going to remain like that, no matter how much you produce. So it's going to be like that. It's horizontal. It's a fixed level, fixed level. It makes sense. So now I'm asking you, then what is the total cost look like? Now you know the total variable cost, you know the total fixed cost. What does total cost look like? Total cost is the sum of these two. You just add these two up. We have both graphs there. When you add these two things up, what does it look like? One graph is this, the other one is this. We're going to add these two things up for each output level.
So like that.
We're going to change the shape.
Yeah.
Let's look up. There must be somebody who knows how to You guys are just guessing right now, right?
Is it the equilibrium curve? The equilibrium curve?
You have the shape of both. Add this to all. It seems like, oh, how can I know what the shape look like? Looks that it's impossible to know, but it is possible. Why? Because one of the graph is unique. One of the graph here is just a horizontal line. It's just a fixed line. Because one of them is unique, that's why you can derive the total cost. You will know what it looks like.
Do you just shift the variable cost up on top of it?
Since total fixed cost remain the same for all output levels, so in a sense, you just add a constant number to this total variable cost curve. So the whole total cost curve is going to shift up by how much?
The fixed cost.
So total cost look exactly the same as total variable cost. The only difference is vertically it's this much higher. So that's one of the cost function. Like the production function, we learn the average production function, we learn the marginal production function. Here we're going to do the same thing. And we want to know the average total cost curve and the marginal cost curve. Okay, so next that's what I'm going to introduce. What is average total cost? And those are the formulas you need to memorize. Okay, because it makes sense. So average total cost is just total cost divided by the output. So it means the cost per unit. What is cost per pizza? It's the average total cost per pizza means the total cost divided by number of pizza you sell. Average fixed cost is equal to total fixed cost divided by Q. average variable cost is equal to total variable cost divided by Q. Now knowing that's the average cost functions, what are the relationship between average total cost, average fixed cost, and average variable cost? What's the relationship between these three?
They all divided by Q.
Huh?
They all being divided by Q.
Dollar?
They're all being divided by Q.
Yes, all of them are divided by Q by using their own cost. So what's the relationship between these three?
Average fixed and average variable equal average total.
Average what?
Fixed. What's average variable?
I can't hear you.
What's
Louder.
average variable equal average total?
This plus this is equal to that, right? Because we have this here, we have this relationship. And if you divide this whole expression by Q, then what do you get? Exactly this. Okay, so in the next exam, you're going to have a chart. And I'm going to give you the cost information. You have to find all this average cost. Okay? And you could just find these two costs, then add these two up, and we'll have the average total cost. Okay? In a sense, you don't have to calculate all three. You can calculate two of them, then you will know the third one. Okay. Are you guys with me here? This is the average cost function. Okay, now we know what it looks like. So you see the format of my teaching. I introduce you the function, then I have to introduce you the graph. Same thing. Now I introduce you the function, the average cost, and I have to introduce you the graph of the average cost. So now you remember this the graph looks like. If I'm going to draw the average total cost, what do you think it's going to look like? The cost per unit, the cost per pizza, is it going to be increasing or decreasing at the beginning? Or what's going to happen later on? It's going to follow the same rationale as the shape of the total cost function. For the total cost, I show you is increased at lower speed, right? Because they have not utilized, all the production potential yet. After a certain point, the cost is going to increase at a faster speed. So, what do you think the average total cost look like? You have, at the beginning, you have not exhausted your production potential. So which means you need to produce more. Every time you produce more, it benefits you. So knowing that's the fact, what is the shape of the ATC at the beginning? Decreasing or increasing? Average total cost actually decreases. At the beginning decreases. So every time you make a unit, produce more units, and the average cost per unit goes down. So this really definitely looks like that. So at the beginning, when you produce more and more, the average cost per unit goes down. So this again reinforces the rationale I told you. At the beginning, you should produce more. You should keep using that production potential because the average cost is going down. And after a certain point, it's going to go up. and the shape of the average variable cost is the same. But it's going to be lower because the average variable cost is smaller than the average total cost. But both of them has this decreasing and increasing shape. Okay, good. So this is one set of functions, okay, in addition to total cost. The last one, marginal cost. Marginal cost, the formula here is the change of total cost divided by the change of total output. So what tells you is, what is the increase of the total output? I'm sorry, what is the increase of total cost when you produce one more unit? That's the meaning of marginal cost. What's the additional cost when we produce one more? When we sell one more pizza and sell one more entry. So what is the additional cost? That is the marginal cost. So again, what do you think the shape of the marginal cost? At the beginning, when you have now exhausted all the production potential, every time you increase your output, what's going to happen to the additional cost? It's going to decrease. Okay, after you exhaust the production potential, then the additional cost per unit is going to go up. It's at the beginning when you have now exhausted production potential, and every time you produce more, the marginal cost, the additional cost goes down at the beginning. Because you are utilizing the potential capacity that you have. You're benefiting from doing it. So you see the marginal cost goes down. But after you reach a certain point, after exhaust all the production potential, if you still want to produce more, you're pushing your limit, then you see the marginal cost going to go up.
So it's gonna look like that.
It's going to look the same shape. So margin cost means additional cost when you produce one more unit. So let's say when you produce the second unit, additional cost is $5. Okay? And then when you produce the third unit, additional cost may be $4 because you are utilizing the potential. But after you produce 10 units and you have exhausted potential, then it may go back up $6 or $7 to produce. So it's going to follow the same shape as this. And so the shape of the average cost function and the marginal cost function, the reason for those shapes is exactly the same as the reason for those production functions. I'm going to actually draw on the side later on. Okay, but now I'm going to put the marginal cost curve on top of the same graph because I want you to remember the relationship between the marginal cost and the average total cost and the average variable cost. I want to know the relationship of this. So the way I did it here is the lowest point of AVC, this is the lowest point of ATC. So marginal cost has the same shape, but has to pass through these 2 points. So I'm going to erase this, and I want to draw the graph I learned from the last chapter. So this is the graph shows the cost function. And this is the graph shows the production function. So this is MPL, this is APL, and this is labor. This means the product. Okay? In the last chapter, we learned this is the production function. And in this chapter, we learn the cost function. And both graph here, this graph has this shape, this graph has this shape, exactly opposite. The reason, the rationale behind the shape is the same thing. It's because we're in the short run. We have fixed the scale and we have fixed the production potential. So they have different shape, but for the same reason. So this is the fundamental concept you need to know to derive the input and output. Okay. And both this graph here represent the characteristics of a firm. If I draw a graph here, that means I have identified a firm. And this graph, the shape of it, represent the cost characteristic of this firm. This represents the production characteristic of this firm. So this graph here represents a particular firm's cost production or cost function and production function. They represent firms. The reason I will emphasize that later on, I'm going to put something else on the graph. In addition to the firm's characteristic, I'm going to put something else. Okay, so remember, both graphs here represent the firm, a particular firm's characteristics. So any question here? Yes. Okay. So now we're going to talk about this. So how do we utilize this to determine the optimal output? How should I know, how many output I should produce within a month or within a day? Okay. What is the goal for any firm? What is their goal?
To be profitable. To be profitable.
Maximizing their profit, right? That's their goal. So no matter what firms we're talking about, their goal is maximize their profit. Okay, knowing that's the goal. And also, we have to know what market we're talking about, because eventually after they produce it, they have to sell their goods in the market. And that also determines, influence the profit made by the firms, right? Okay. So let's assume we're in a perfect competitive market. Have I talked about this particular market? Perfect competitive market? Do you guys remember? In the very beginning I did, when I talked about supply and demand. Perfect competitive market. What do you mean a perfect competitive market? You have a lot of suppliers, a lot of competitors, and then they produce identical goods. Okay? And there is a free entering and free exiting. So if you want to leave the market, it's very easy. If you want to come in, it's very easy. So that's particular market that we want to talk about. Why? Because in that market, the price is determined by the supply and demand. Okay, we'll learn this, right? This model applies this in this market, not in all other markets, okay? So you probably, before you start, okay, the supply demand applies in all market. No, this supply demand is used in only this perfect competitive market. Only in that market, the price is purely determined by the market. So individual firm has no control over the price. I, let's say, use the book. After semester, you can sell this book on Amazon. You know, you bought this book for $130, something like that. Huh?
I think it was 2 something.
It was 200 and something.
This book here, 200 something. Wow. That's impressive. You probably want to get a $100 back at least. You know, if the book is still in good shape. But can you determine that price? You go to Amazon, look at what other people say, and you have to follow that price. If you don't, you're never going to sell this book. There's always somebody selling this textbook. So you may cut, lower the price a couple dollars, but you basically have to place your price around that range. So that's the example perfect competitive market. The goods exactly identical. It's usable, pretty much the same, right? And free entering and free exiting, and market determines the price. It depends on how, because there's so many people selling this book, that's why you have no control over its price. Okay, basically, I do not know how much it is myself. My estimate would be $50, $60. Check the Amazon, see whether I'm wrong or not. $50, $60 for the used textbook like that. You cannot control this price. And if you want to sell the book here, that's the price you're going to get. Okay. So that's the kind of market we're talking about here. Why? We choose this market because right now we still want a very simplified market structure, which means you're not going to determine the price. You're just going to take the price it's given from the market and sell the good at price. Because if you're going to make a decision on the price, it makes our problems more complex. And right now we don't want to do that. Later on, I'm going to introduce you the scenario when the firm will have to determine price. But we stick with this market because the price is predetermined for you. Right. So everybody is following me here? I'm talking about? Okay, so when we're talking about perfect competitive market, where each firm is a price taker. Not a price setter, it's a price taker. Okay, that's a very important assumption. So now we can start solving this problem here. Suppose we're talking about, let's just say iPod market. It's not really something, this will not be a perfect competitive market. Just say, use the book, just test it. Okay? We figure out from the market, this is the price and market sales. And we're going to, I'm going to just draw this one next to this. Next to it. Okay, so this is a P star. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this P star right here. So what I'm doing here is, in this graph, we not only have cost function which represent individual firms' characteristic, but we also have something from the market. What is it? It's this P star. This is a P star. This P star represents information from the market, represent this market is like. And your decision about optimal output depends on both your firm's characteristic, but also the market information. You guys with me here? You guys with me right now? Yes? Okay. So we have both firms' cost function there and also the market price in this graph. So what should we produce as a firm to maximize the profit? I'm gonna randomly pick a point. I will ask you whether we should produce that point. I'm gonna randomly pick this point here. It's called Q1. Output 1. Okay, let's analyze this point. Should we produce Q1? Am I going to maximize the profit if I'm producing Q1? A lot of you shake your head. Why? Why? Why Q1 is not a good point? It's not a point that's maximize profit.
It's your lowest average variable cost.
Huh?
I mean, well,
Let me extend this. We know the good will be sold at this price P star, right? So at this point, Q1, let's say this is the 50 units. Okay, we already produced the 50. If we produce one more, let's give it this is $200 here. Okay? If you produce one more, how much money you gonna get? How much more revenue you gonna bring in? $200. So we call that is your marginal revenue. What is marginal revenue? Your additional total revenue whenever you sell one more unit, whenever you produce one more. So the marginal revenue is just the price. I'm gonna use IMAR to represent. So remember here, if you produce one more at 50 units here, you can get $200 as revenue. But there's a cost of producing this unit, right? So what is the additional cost when you produce one more unit at 50? What's additional cost when you produce one more unit? Here. What concept is that? Additional cost. Marginal cost. So what is marginal cost when you produce one more unit in Q? Where is that? Do I have marginal cost curve here? It's right here. So when you produce 50, using this graph here, you know this is your additional cost. You guys with me here? What the marginal cost curve tells us? Tells us additional cost, additional cost of producing one more unit at each different output level. Are you paying attention to me? So this is your total, this is your additional revenue, but this is your additional cost. So what does that imply? Let's say this is $100 one. This is $200. So when you produce one more unit at Q equal 50, what happened to you? What happened to you? What's your additional revenue? What's additional cost to make that? 100. The additional revenue is 200, additional cost is 100. What's your net profit from that additional unit? So this tells you that if you produce one more unit at Q equal 50, you're gonna make $100 more, right? So should you stop at Q equal 50? Should you stop at Q equal 50? No. Why should you do it? You can make more money if you produce more, right? So that's why this is not profit maximizing because you can make much more. I'm gonna pick another point. Then I'll ask you guys to tell me what's additional revenue, what's additional cost, and what is the net gain. Now I'm gonna pick another point, right? Here is Q2, it's 60 units. Okay? I want someone to tell me what is additional revenue if we want to produce one more unit at Q2 equal to 60. At Q2 equal to 60, if we produce one more unit, what's the additional revenue?
60.
Louder.
60.
What's additional revenue? How much you sell this good at? What's the price of the good?
$200.
So when you sell one more unit, what is additional revenue?
$200.
So at Q equal to 60, if you sell one more, you can get $200. What's the additional cost of producing one more unit? How do you know that? Where is it? Where is Q equal to 60? So Q is equal to 60, right? How do you find the marginal cost when you produce one more unit at Q equals 60? Do we have the graph or not, marginal cost? Why don't you use the graph? Justin, you want to show us where is the marginal cost of producing one more unit at Q equals 60? You want to go ahead and draw it? How do we find the marginal cost? We use the marginal cost curve. Otherwise, if you're not using the marginal cost curve, why do we need it? Okay, then draw the line. Okay, see what? Thank you. At Q equal to 60, when you want to produce one more unit, the marginal cost of that producing that one more unit is this distance here, right? Because that's what marginal cost curve. Marginal cost curve tells you the additional cost you produce one more unit at each. So the revenue, additional revenue is 200, additional cost is here. Do we have positive net gains? Do we have positive net gains? So should you stop at Q equal to 60? You should not. Because you're still making more money by producing. Now knowing that's the case, I'm going to keep increasing. Can you find me the point where the additional revenue is exactly equal to the additional cost? Casey, can you find this? You can? Give it a couple of minutes. Where is the point where the additional revenue, that $200, exactly equal to additional? Want to try that? Go ahead. Follow the string. Go back and draw it. Okay. So this is Q. Let's say this Q equal to 70. So what she just draws from this point. If you produce at 70 units, your additional revenue still remain 200. That's never going to change, right? Because that's the price of good. Every time you sell one unit, you're going to get $200. That's additional revenue. What's changing is additional cost. And based on the marginal cost curve, if you produce a 70 unit, your marginal cost of producing one more unit is exactly equal to $200. So at this Q3 here, marginal revenue exactly equal to the marginal cost. Before that, at Q is less than Q3, your marginal revenue is always greater than the marginal cost, right? When its Q is less than 70, the marginal revenue, the price is always greater than the marginal cost. At Q is equal to Q3, your marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost. Yes? Now I'm going to ask you, what happens if this firm produces 80 units? Q4 is right here. What's the relationship between the marginal revenue and the marginal cost? Dante? At Q4 here, what is the marginal revenue?
Marginal revenue is more than marginal cost.
What is the marginal revenue here, the number?
90, 80.
What's the price of this good? What's the price of this good?
About
What's the price of this good? What do you sell at in the market? What's the price of the good? What's the price of the good? $200. Okay? I've been repeating this, for the last 30 minutes. You sell this good at $200. That's not going to change. You always sell at $200. You're now the determination of that price. The market determines for you. Okay, $200 is going to change. So every time you sell a unit, you're going to get $200. That is your marginal revenue of selling any unit. Additional revenue is always $200. Is everybody with me on that? Okay, I'm going to ask you that question just to see whether you pay attention. Marginal revenue remains $200. So if you produce, this is 80 units. I'm asking you what is the marginal revenue of producing one more unit at that level? What is it? What is it? 200. But what's the difference is the marginal cost. The marginal cost is going to change because you have a curve here. How do we find the marginal cost? We have the marginal cost curve. Why don't we utilize that? So you draw this line here, up here. Then you find the marginal cost. You see? If it's beyond the 70 units, then this marginal cost is always above this price. It's always above 200. You guys see that? Don't they do that now? So when you produce at Q equal to greater than 70 units, the marginal cost is going to be higher. And what does that mean? You sell this unit, you make $200, but you have to spend more than $200 to make it. Are you going to do it? Good. So you're not going to do it. So what is the optimal output level now? So knowing that's what happens as you produce more and more. What is the optimal output level? What's the best point? What point should you choose? 70. And that's the point when the marginal revenue equal to the marginal cost. And when you produce at 70, your profit is at 90. So how do you derive this Q star? That's the profit maximizing condition. Profit maximize, that's what we want to derive in this class. Profit maximizing condition for the optimal output is marginal revenue equal to marginal cost. And in this case, marginal revenue is just equal to the price, right? So you can also write down this condition as follows. Price equal to marginal cost. Because in this case, marginal revenue just equal to the market price, so the profit maximizing condition is just P equal to X. So that's how you utilize this to derive the optimal output. Make sense, guys? All right. Q, ATC, ABC. Here is cost. I'm going to tell you here now the market price is right here. I want you to find the optimal output in this graph. Josh, go ahead, mark the optimal output. Utilizing that condition we just learned. So this is our Q stop. It's the point where price is market cost. So now we know how do we determine the output. And we've almost finished our goal here. The next thing we want to know is, yes, we have figured out optimal output, but can we tell from the graph whether this firm is making a positive profit or not? Can you give guess, actually? Look at this graph. This is a firm. They're choosing Q stock. Is this firm making positive profit or not? Can you just give guess? Yes? The guess is right. And now I'm going to change the price. I'm going to lower the price like here. What do you think if the price is lower down here? Of course, the price, now the profit is going to be smaller or bigger? Smaller, right? Because you're able to sell less, right? Before you can sell $200, now you can only sell for $150, right? What do you think the profit and the price is right here? What do you think the profit if the price actually went? We're going to talk about the three scenarios in this class. Okay? I'm going to discuss how do we define